Just before they entered Jerusalem in what was called in Christian history as the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, the disciples were excited as they were nearing Jerusalem because they thought that the, the prospect of avenging themselves on the Romans, their oppressors, was within reach. And also they probably, especially the apostles, especially James and John, they probably thought juicy political positions were awaiting them. And so Jesus had to correct that. And then also in the first chapter of the book of Acts, just before Jesus ascended into heaven, they, again, that excitement was revived, and they asked Jesus, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Will we finally be able to resist Rome and take our turn now as the bullies instead of the recipients of their cruel bullying? And so Jesus had to correct them. They misunderstood what the kingdom of God was about. Sadly, today, 2,000 years later, many of us still misunderstand what the kingdom of God is about. We think like the Israelites thought. We think that to be freed from our enemies means to be freed from the inconveniences we think we suffer from. And we think in terms of what's in it for me. A heaven for me, a mansion for me. That's how we think. And we misunderstand what the kingdom of God really represents. And in yesterday's gospel, we are reminded that like the apostles, we are called to preach the kingdom of God. So we must understand in the first place what the kingdom of God is about. The proclamation of the kingdom of God is not an academic exercise. It is a testimony. A testimony. We testify to its truthfulness, to its power, to its universality, to its inclusion, to its tangibility, to the fact that it is here right now, waiting for people to come to it, waiting to bless people, waiting to change their lives, waiting to restore them to the image and likeness of God and into fullness of life. That's what the kingdom of God is about, which is why it's characterized by two things, well, actually three things: provision and healing. Kasi the whole point is for us to be restored to the image and likeness of God. What is the image and likeness of God? Abundance, prosperity. Kaya si Jesus nagpo-provide para sa atin. Para makita ng tao na our God is more than enough. Ano pa? Fullness of life. Free from sickness and disease and death. That's why He heals us. Right? And more than that, the root of the problem of poverty and sickness is sin. That's why in the kingdom of God, there is forgiveness of sin as well. Those things are corrective measures, freeing us from the clutches of the world, which tend to take us away from the image and likeness of God and the life that He wants for us. Corrective. Kasi nung panahon ni Jesus, ito rin, God was misrepresented, and His kingdom was misrepresented by the temple itself. Ano ba yung temple? Yung temple merong outer court, may inner court, may holy of holies. Habang papunta sa presensya ng Panginoon, pakonti ng pakonti yung taong entitled, qualified. And that's not what God is about. Kaya binaliktad ni Jesus yun. Yung mga makasalanan, nilapitan niya. Kasi mga makasalanan, hindi ka pwedeng pumasok sa temple eh. Mga Gentiles, hindi ka pwedeng pumasok doon sa loob eh. Tapos yung mga taong makasalanan, hindi pwedeng pumasok. Ultimately, it ends up goes down to one person going once a year, the high priest. Kabado pa daw. Dahil baka tamaan siya ng kidlat ng Diyos dahil galit ang Diyos sa mga makasalanan. And so Jesus, when he was crucified, the temple, he ripped the temple and opened it. The Holy of Holies opened it to everyone, saying, this is who God is. You can come to Him. That's why He said, come to me, all you are tired and heavy laden. Come. Kayong mga napapagal ng kasalanan, ng kagutuman, ng sakit, at ng mga kung ano-ano pang mga consequences ng kasalanan. Come to me. This is who God is. This is what the kingdom of God is about. Now when we proclaim the kingdom of God, we represent, not misrepresent, but represent the King and His kingdom. We represent the heart of God. What is that? We seek and save that which is lost. We do that as we proclaim the gospel. Yesterday, like I mentioned, the disciples in the gospel were sent by Jesus to proclaim the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God is this: I go on a mission. I go on a mission with no attractive compensation package, with no gold, no silver, no extra clothes or shoes. And I might even be rejected and insulted as I preach the gospel. But I do it to heal the sick, to raise the dead, to cleanse the lepers, to cast out demons. I do it for the good of others, for their deliverance, for their healing, for their provision. That's what I do. Yan ang kingdom of God. Not what I can get. Hindi yung bago ako magpunta sa mission, Lord, magkano ba sweldo ko? Magkano ba makukuha ko? What's in it for me? That's not the kingdom of God. In the Old Testament reading yesterday, from Exodus chapter 19, the people of God were called a kingdom of priests. A kingdom of priests. What are priests? Does a priest mainly do? He offers sacrifices. Tama? Nagsasakripisyo, meaning at a price, at cost to myself, nagsasakripisyo, para saan yung sacrifice niya? For the good of the people. For the good of others. I sacrifice for the good of others, for the favor of others. That's what holy means. We're different from the world because in the world, they ask, what is good for me? At a price to others. What is good for me at their expense? Baliktad, no? Ang holy, ibig sabihin, iba tayo sa mundo. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng holy. Hindi ibig sabihin ng holy, yung ganyan, yung banal na religious, no? And holier than thou. No, holy means different from the world. Because we represent the kingdom of heaven, which is very different. In fact, the exact opposite of the spirit of the age, the spirit of the world. The heaven for me gospel is not different from the world's ideology. Kasi ang gusto nila, maganda para sa akin. And Christians were offered that kind of a gospel. Wrong. Yung mga marketing slogan natin na come and be blessed. You will be blessed. We will be blessed. But it's not ultimately our goal is just to be blessed, but to be blessed so that we can be a blessing to others. How about this? Come, deny yourself, carry your cross, follow me, and bless others. Even the most unworthy, bless them, forgive them, pray for them, love them. That's what the kingdom of God is about. We restore the kingdom of God, that is the image and likeness of God. Not, the Israelites were thinking of their national identity. Lord, ire-restore mo na ba yung glory days namin? Katulad nung panahon ni David, kung kailan kami ang naghahari. Kung kailan nag-expand yung empire namin. Ang dami naming tao, ang dami naming ganito, ganyan. Glory days. Well, God is interested not in the restoration of a national political identity of a certain country, but in the image of God, the imago Dei being restored in man, in each one, so that, like our youth say, Christ is alive in everyone. And that image, the enemy wants to destroy. True freedom is being free from what destroys or mars or tarnishes the image and likeness of God in us. That's true freedom. The image seen in us should reflect God's fullness of life. Health, abundance, love, peace, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. Yung mga bagay na yun. And so we must understand that in the first place. Kasi yung kasakiman natin para sa mabuti, para sa atin lang, that is the number one impediment that gets in the way of us proclaiming the kingdom of God. It defeats the purpose. It contradicts our message. So may we understand that the restoration of all things begins with man, in man being restored the image of God. We start from there, and then we affect all of creation so that they're delivered from futility and death. And God's kingdom will be full in this earth, and His glory will be seen and cover the earth as the waters cover the sea, because that's the way it is in the kingdom of our God.